Under arrest in Calcasieu Parish after a body was found in the trunk of a car.
The body has been identified as the soldier's wife. Deputies say he confessed to killing her at Fort Polk.
Police officers circled the red Ford Taurus with their weapons drawn. Inside the vehicle are Logan Kyle and Sarah Parker. Sarah's 18-month and 2-year-old children are in the back seat. Body of Logan's pregnant wife, Shelena Kyle, is in the trunk of the car. Shelena was a kind, fun-loving young woman with a family she cared deeply about. If you knew a girl in high school that would dye her hair bright colors, shop at Hot Topic with friends, listen to hard rock music, stretch her pierced ears to accommodate larger jewelry, love Nightmare Before Christmas and Invader Zim, then you knew Shelena. She was active in high school, enjoying swimming, softball, and basketball. Her Facebook profile is plastered with song lyrics from bands like Korn, Breaking Benjamin, Slipknot, and Hollywood Undead. She married her high school sweetheart, Logan Kyle, on August 10, 2016. They had been classmates at William Henry Harrison High School in West Lafayette, Indiana. Logan joined the military shortly after high school. He enlisted as an infantryman and was shipped out to Italy shortly after basic combat training. Shelena would suffer the burden and sacrifice every military spouse must make. The loneliness of waiting for her husband to return from deployments, moving homes and making new friends every couple of years, and having limited career opportunities. She became a beloved member of the local military community at Fort Polk, where her life was cruelly taken from her in October of 2018. Her death was honored with a 21-gun salute, an honor normally reserved for service members. Shelena and Logan had some relationship difficulties. Logan confessed to his wife that he enjoyed dressing in women's clothing. He thought that he might be gender dysphoric and that he was born a woman in a man's body. Shelena loved the man she married, but she believed that this lifestyle might make them incompatible. They decided to separate while Logan was serving as a fire team leader in Iraq. During this time, Logan had met a new girl on a dating website, Sarah Parker, 24 years old, from Moss Bluff, Louisiana. She lived about an hour south of where Kyle was normally stationed. Sarah had 2 children of her own from a former boyfriend. Sarah also suffered from bipolar disorder and was known for rapid swings in mood. She was very understanding and encouraging of Kyle's cross-dressing. When he returned from Iraq, Sarah and Kyle went on a date. Together, they went to Ulta Makeup Store in Lake Charles for a lesson in makeup. The staff helped him select makeup and gave him a feminine makeover. He bought $240 worth of eyeshadow, blush, setting spray, foundation, brushes, lip gloss, and mascara from brands including Urban Decay, Tarte, and NYX. The pair went out to dinner. Logan wore full makeup and women's clothing for the first time in public. They went to the buffet at L'Auberge Casino in Lake Charles. He wore a frilly blouse and women's pants. According to Sarah's family, she told him she could love him whoever he was. According to Sarah's family, Sarah and Logan ended their relationship so Logan could reconcile with his wife. Sarah's Aunt Wanda claims Sarah wasn't his mistress. She wasn't his girlfriend. They dated and stopped dating when his wife came back into the picture. Shortly after reconnecting with Logan, Shelena became pregnant with Logan's child. They continued to struggle with Logan's gender identity. Late at night, on October 20th, 2018, Shelena bathed in a tub in their shared apartment on Fort Polk. Logan was brushing Shelena's hair and talking through their marital issues. At some point in the conversation, it began to spiral out of control. They exchanged hurtful words. Shelena reportedly threatened to report Logan's cross-dressing to his chain of command. Logan responded in a rage, with his hands around her throat. He violently held her head under water, killing both her and their unborn child. Logan's gender identity issues would not have actually put his career in jeopardy. During this time period, President Donald Trump had repealed the Obama-era ruling that allowed transgender soldiers to enlist in the military. Under Trump's policy, Logan would have been able to continue serving as a man but would not be allowed to take hormones or receive treatment for gender dysphoria. Despite being confident enough to saunter around Lake Charles in full makeup just an hour-and-a-half drive from the base, he was apparently mortified by the possibility of his chain of command finding out his secret. Logan bundled his wife's body in sheets and stuffed her in the trunk of his Nissan sedan. He drove to Sarah Parker's house near Lake Charles. Logan parked his car at Sarah Parker's house and spent most of Sunday with Sarah. He was helping her move her belongings out of her children's father's apartment and back into the family home using her car. Sarah Parker's father said, "It was the only time I had ever met him. I found him polite and respectful, and of course clean cut, being in the Army. A very good-mannered young man. What I didn't know when I shook his hand is that he had used that very hand to kill his wife just hours earlier." At some point during the move, Logan somehow transferred the body of Shelena into Sarah's red Ford Taurus, supposedly without Sarah's knowledge. After completing her move, Sarah decided to take her children, Jacob, 2, and 18-month-old Lisette, to visit her grandmother, June Dohan, who lives just an hour north on Bundick Lake. She took Kyle and his dead pregnant wife with her. But by the time she had reached the home on the outskirts of DeRidder, Louisiana, Sarah was aware of the body in the trunk. It is unclear if she became aware of the smell from the trunk or if Kyle wittingly confessed to her. Sarah's father, Jackie Parker, claims Sarah told her grandma, "I have a crazy man in my car and a body in my trunk," hoping she would call the police once they were gone. The sheriff's department refused to confirm who called the police, but the call went to the sheriff's department in Beauregard Parish, where Grandma Duhan lives. After the visit, Sarah, Kyle, the kids, and the dead body of Shelena left Grandma's house and headed back to the family home near Lake Charles. The sheriff's office were on the lookout and eventually stopped them at North Franklin Street, close to the alligator-infested Caucaso River. Sheriff Mancuso said, "We don't know whether they were waiting for the next day or whether they were planning to dump the body in the river that night." With weapons drawn, the sheriff's department closed in, ordering Sarah and Kyle out of the vehicle. They were both arrested, and Kyle confessed to murdering his wife and unborn child. Since Logan is a soldier and the crime occurred on Fort Polk, Logan will face court-martial and a military investigation. Sarah faces charges that accumulate to 40 years in civilian prison for her participation in covering up the murder, failure to report the crime, and child endangerment. The last charge is due to her bringing her children along and exposing them to the armed police confrontation. There are two versions of the events presented. The sheriff's department claims that Sarah was an accomplice to disposing of the body and recklessly placed her children in harm's way. Logan even admitted to the police that they were actively seeking a place to dump Shelena's body. Sarah's family claims that not only was Sarah an unwilling participant, but she is actually both a hero and a victim. Calcasieu Sheriff Tony Mancuso claims the couple drove around several parishes looking for a place to dump the body. They were arrested on North Franklin Street while traveling from grandmother's house near DeRidder to Sarah's family home in Moss Bluff. North Franklin Street isn't far from the family home, but it also isn't on the way. It is conceivable that they were directly heading to the family home and not looking to offload the body at that time. However, Sarah's own family contradicts this theory. Her father, Jackie Parker, claims the whole time she was driving around, stalling for time, hoping the police would eventually come and arrest them, and that's exactly what happened, he said. So both the sheriff's department and Sarah's family agree that they were driving around and not on a direct route back to Sarah's family home. Logan Kyle would have been familiar with the trip to Moss Bluff. It seems unlikely that she would have been able to drive around in circles, stalling for time without him noticing. Sarah claimed she only went along with Logan because he threatened to kill her and her children if she didn't. While this version of events is possible, Logan never admitted to this, despite admitting to the murder shortly after being arrested. Just to get this all straight, Sarah and her family members claim Sarah found out that there was a body in her car while on the road to Grandma's house. She was then threatened by Logan to help her hide the body, and when they arrived at Grandma's, Sarah told her grandmother that "I have a crazy man in my car and a body in the trunk," but did not explicitly tell her to call the police. She then drove around, feigning participation in hiding the body, hoping that Grandma would call the police and that they would be arrested. So, Sarah wasn't a willing participant, but rather a hero who devised a roundabout means of getting Logan caught in the act. There's not a lot of information surrounding Sarah's involvement at the time of this recording, since she is still fighting for her release in court. Currently, she is inmate number 193645 in Calcasieu Parish Jail. Her bond was set for $60,000. Parker's 2 children were initially taken into custody by Child and Family Services, but are now being cared for by their father, Eric Dayton, 23 years old. Under a plea agreement, Kyle pled guilty to 1 allegation of premeditated murder and 1 allegation of death of an unborn child, violations of Article 118 and 119 Alpha under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. The military judge sentenced Kyle to be confined to prison for life without the possibility of parole, a reduction of rank to E1 private, and a forfeiture of all pay and allowances, along with a dishonorable discharge from the military. This case never received a lot of attention in the media. It was picked up by Army Times, local news stations, and the British tabloid Daily Mail. There's a lot of confusion regarding this case due to poor fact-checking and sensationalism. So far, I have generally avoided referring to Private Kyle by his rank and last name. This is because it is unclear what his rank was at the time the murder occurred. Upon conviction, he was stripped of all rank and reduced to E1 private. He will remain Private Kyle until he completes his life sentence. At the time of the murders, however, Army Times referred to him as a specialist, Daily Mail called him a corporal, and the local publication called him a specialist first class, whatever the hell that is. As a fire team leader in Iraq, he likely would have been laterally promoted from specialist to corporal, and possibly returned to specialist after returning from combat. Another point of confusion is in regard to Shelena's military service. This is due to a misleading Army Times article. They write, quote, Logan Kyle of 3rd Brigade Combat Team, 10th Mountain Division at Fort Polk pleaded guilty to premeditated murder. His wife, Shelena, was also a member of 3rd Brigade, end quote. I believe the Army Times misinterpreted Colonel Kendall Clark, the 3rd Brigade commander, when he said, quote, "We are deeply saddened by the loss of this patriot family member. She was a member of our family, and her death affects us all," end quote. The Army Times should have realized that women were not integrated into Fort Polk's brigade combat teams until after Shelena's murder. As a result, several news stations reported that they were both soldiers, but never addressed Shelena by rank. This isn't due to misogyny or patriarchal news agencies not respecting her rank while using his. It's simply because they had incomplete and inaccurate information. Fort Polk's public affairs officer succinctly clarified, while Shelena was not in the military, she and other spouses are considered a part of the Army family. Lastly, the Daily Mail really focused on Private Kyle's cross-dressing and made it seem like some dirty little secret that he would do anything to protect. He had told his friends that he wanted gender reassignment surgery after getting out of the military. He claimed to struggle with gender dysphoria. It did not seem like some kind of fetish or lurid fantasy that he was pursuing. I think there are more motives behind the killing than simply murdering her to keep a dark secret. We only have Private Kyle's story and the claims that he makes to family members. Kyle wore a memorial band around his wrist honoring a fallen comrade. It is possible that the stress of gender dysphoria, having a newborn on the way, finding happiness with another woman, and combat stress led to his crimes. Ultimately, there is no excuse for Shelena's killing. Her life and the life of their unborn child were wrongly taken from them. Shelena was more than a body in the back of a trunk. She bore the sacrifice of being a military spouse. She hoped to raise her child with the man she loved and has a loving family that misses her deeply. The Military Crisis Line is free to all service members, including members of the National Guard and Reserve and veterans, even if you are not registered with the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. Hundreds of men and women call it every day. Dial 1-800-273-8255 and press 1 to talk with a caring, qualified responder from the VA. 1-800-273-8255.